What is up, Tube users? I am the stereotypical gamer, and welcome back to another fantastically fun games for under $15. Today, we are taking a look at what could possibly be the best Far Cry game of the series, Far Cry 6. Now, I've played the main games of the Far Cry series. I played 3, 4, 5, and 6, and Far Cry Blood Dragon as well. I haven't done 1 or 2. Those were kind of early games for me, and then I didn't play Far Cry Primal because it didn't interest me. But I think Far Cry 6 kind of is like the jack of all traits for Far Cry games. I think each one of those games does something extremely well and then kind of is lessened by other things. But this game kind of does everything that every other Far Cry game has done before, just well. I really don't have like any complaints about this game. The gameplay loop for Far Cry games is probably one of my favorite loops of just going into these locations and taking it over, which you could do like blazing gun style, or you could do stealth. And I always like the stealth because it gives you bonus points and stuff for doing it. But yeah, this is a fantastic game. It's the newest game. I can't remember when it came out. It came out on Steam just last year, but I know it's been out prior to that. But right now it is on sale for $15, and man, this is a great game to play at that price, especially if you're a fan of the Far Cry series. This is one of the best Far Cry games in my opinion. And right now all of the Far Cry games are on sale for under $15, and I mean, all of the ones that I've played are pretty fun. Far Cry Primal, I'm sure, is good in its own way. I just didn't like the idea of them pushing the entire Far Cry mechanics into a primalative state, but yet still kind of have the same stuff. It was weird, and I just wasn't a fan of it. But all the other Far Cry games were just super good, and the reason I picked Far Cry 6 is because it just kind of blends the good of every Far Cry game into one with beautiful graphics. And I mean, it's the newest one. It's the freshest thing to play in terms of Far Cry. But yeah, it's a great game, great graphics, and it really does just have endless replayability with how the gameplay loops after the story is completed, which is really nice. So if I'm taking a look at all the Far Cry games that I have played, starting with Far Cry 3, I think Far Cry 3 definitely has the best story, the best villain, and just the best all-around narrative for how the game plays out. Each game kind of is the same, right? You have a big bad somewhere, and you're basically taking over small bases, munition supply depots, whatever it is of their army, and just kind of slowly dismantling it until you finally get to the big bad and defeat them, you know? It's pretty simplistic in terms of that, but they really do a good job at fleshing out the story, especially in Far Cry 3. It is just such a good all-around story with one of the greatest villains of all time, and it you know, it's kind of dated because I believe that game came out like on the PS3, Xbox 360 era, in like early days, if that. But it still holds, I think, just because of how great the story is. I don't think in terms of graphics or gameplay quality it necessarily holds up in terms of other Far Cry games, but the story definitely holds strong. Then looking at Far Cry 4, which is probably the one I played the most out of all the Far Cry games. Actually, maybe Far Cry 6 I played more, but Far Cry 4 I enjoyed the setting of the entire game. I thought the boss was like the big bad boss was but the entire world was just way more fleshed out. Like in Far Cry 3, there was like spots where you can can hunt for certain stuff, and you can go gather different herbs to like make healing potions or whatever it was, like healing syringes. And it just kind of didn't feel fleshed out, even though you're in this like jungle and the aesthetic is really colorful and pleasing. It didn't feel like there was much to do other than like the main points of the island. But with Far Cry 4, I just loved because it takes place in like the Alps in India or somewhere like that. I can't remember exactly, but it takes place in like a upper region in the mountains, and I love the verticality, especially because there's the wingsuit was added, I believe, in Far Cry 4, and just makes a vertical movement just around the world a lot of fun, and it just looks great. And I think the graphics for that game definitely hold up. Those are definitely a little bit more modern. While it's not like next gen graphics or anything like that, it still holds up really well. And you know, they just tuned the gameplay and just made it better. I think story wise it's not as good, but it's still not a bad story by any means. And then Far Cry 5, I really liked the story. There was a lot of great missions. I loved the Montana region setting for the game. But I think what they really did the best in Far Cry 5 is make all the different systems very simplistic and easy to understand and easy to use and find. And they kind of carried that same thing over with Far Cry 6, which we'll get into next. But just being able to like kind of have like tier sets for gear, just making all these really cool and easy mods to craft for guns, easy to, and it was just always easy to know like if you needed to find something like any sort of specific crafting material, it was really easy to understand where you needed to go for that and where it was going to be. And yeah, like I would say Far Cry 5 has a better story than 4, but not as good as 3. I think Far Cry 5 actually had some of the most fun missions. Like a typical Far Cry mission, there's always one drug trip mission, and I think Far Cry 5's, especially since they kind of rely heavily on the drug side of things with was it like Bliss drug that they had in the game? The trippy drug mission in Far Cry 5 was super enjoyable. And then Far Cry 6, it just takes all the good from all those games and just puts it into one that is kind of just a jack of all, not really the best at any of them. I think the story in this game is really good, but it's not the best. I think the gameplay is just, it's like Far Cry 5 but better. But I mean, it's definitely the best of the Far Cry just because of how next gen everything feels. You know, you have like your like Call of Duty slide mechanics when you're sliding down, really good movement, just and super easy traversal. I mean, like right here I'm taking a roadblock which has like 4 enemies, and then you have to destroy a sign, which can be difficult if you don't have any explosives, which I didn't at the time. But just doing this like unlocks the checkpoint for me, and then I can fast travel there whenever I want, and that just kind of makes traversal easy, especially when you destroy air bases that have anti-aircraft guns, and then you're able to fly around the world, which just makes it even easier. It really does just kind of make moving around the map and getting to where you need to go easy and fun. And I mean, there's multiple different ways to do that. You have like custom cars that you can get. You could just steal a car off the road, you know, like GTA style, but it really does make it easy to get anywhere that you need to be. And while I do have some problems with the modifications for weapons and such in this game, I do like how simplistic and easy it is to do. It's really straightforward. You understand kind of everything and what it's going to do to your weapon, and it's just easy to get the materials that you need to craft the modifications, which is nice. The one thing I don't like about the modifications, though, is they are really that there's a best one. Like, obviously, you need a silencer for going silent and trying to not get recognized when in combat. And then armor, you want the armor piercing rounds, because if you don't have those, you're not going to be able to take out any person wearing a helmet or any sort of body armor easily. And it makes it so there's not really any uniqueness. You just kind of have to run those things if you want to play and try and get the best score. The only other thing that really bugs me about Far Cry 6 is your ultimate, or I think it's called Supremo or something like that. It's basically a backpack that you wear, and there's different types of backpacks that you can get in the game, but really the only one that I've ever used throughout my entire playthrough, and I have all the backpacks, is the rocket launcher one, because sometimes you don't want to run explosives. I typically don't run like a rocket launcher or anything. I don't usually have grenades, and I just run this, because the missile launcher backpack, because it just makes taking out a tank or a helicopter or anything like that super easy. I mean, it's just a press of a button and you can destroy any sort of armored vehicle. But other than that, I really do think this is a great Far Cry game. It is one of my favorites, if not my favorite. It's definitely in contention for the best Far Cry game, in my opinion. But yeah, I love the wackiness that this game gets into, like some of the different weapons, like the CD gun that plays the Macarena it's great. The pets that you can have like a little dog that its hind legs are broken and just kind of is super cute to walk around with you, or you can get an actual like Terminator T-1000 metal dog. Or an alligator. There's just so many wacky guns, so many wacky vehicles, that it just kind of harkens me back to like Just Cause, but in first person. This game really feels like that, and I love Just Cause. It's probably one of my favorite open world like shooter games like this. And this game really dives into the wackiness and just Cause, and just how mayhem follows you everywhere. Like, if you just sit AFK by the side of the road, eventually something is going to start happening in front of you. And I just love that. I love all of the silly weaponry, the silly pets. Like, you can get there's a quest, or is it a quest, or it might just be a secret. There's some sort of, I think it's a quest that you can unlock a unicorn basically as a riding horse, and just like little things like that it's a side quest out of the way. You can't even find it. You'd have to like look up a guide to find where it is, but you just get this wacky reward that is it's a horse with a horn taped on the top of its head, but it is basically a unicorn. So just all those things combined with great gameplay, really fun just gameplay loop in general, and a really good story and fun story missions, just kind of combined together to make a really good Far Cry game that has terrific graphics for this gen and runs really smoothly. I find a lot of these games today that have really good graphics are either like Call of Duty and have just an insane amount of space that just makes it not even worth playing, or they just don't run that well on those high graphics. But this game really like was running surprisingly smooth for me, and it is still a fairly large game, but it's not like your Call of Duties or anything, so I really enjoyed that about this. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like if you did. Go check out Far Cry 6. It's on sale on Steam for $15. And make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.